All right, welcome in everyone. Kicking off another deep dive here.
Sounds good.
You know, I think we all agree that if you're in the construction world these days,
For sure.
or even if you just find it like totally fascinating,
Absolutely.
keeping up with it all, man, it can be a lot.
It
We've
is.
got like constantly new building methods coming out, all this stuff in project management, there's technologies that just totally change the
Oh,
game.
yeah. It's always changing, never stops.
It's a constant learning curve, right?
Yeah. You really got to stay on top of things.
But hey, luckily,
Luckily.
there are some seriously awesome resources out there to help make staying informed a whole lot easier.
That's where we come in, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what we're diving into today.
All right. Tell me more.
So we're going to be checking out this list of construction-focused podcasts, getting right to the heart of what makes them worth listening to.
I like it. Cut through the noise.
Exactly.
What's our source material this time?
So our roadmap for this, audio adventure comes from this Construction Dive article.
Instruction dive. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's called Top Construction Related Podcasts, and it was published, let me check my notes, March 11th, 2025.
Okay. Not too long ago.
Super recent, yeah. You can actually find it on their site, www.constructiondive.com. And shout out to Construction Dive for putting this together.
They did good work over there.
Always, yeah. They always have great stuff. But, as we do here on the Deep Dive,
Right.
we've taken their awesome list and we're going to distill it down, extracting the real golden nuggets, the stuff that'll, actually make a difference for you.
So we're saving people time, basically.
Big time saver.
Yeah.
Because, let's be real, who has time to listen to every single podcast out there?
Nobody. I mean, who has that kind of time?
No one. No one. So our goal today is really straightforward. To give you a clear picture of the podcast that can genuinely help you, stay ahead of the game, learn new things quickly, and maybe even find some fresh ways of looking at the whole industry.
Awesome. I'm ready. Let's get into it.
Me too. Let's do it. So I think a good place to start would be, the world of engineering and management in construction.
Makes sense.
Yeah, super foundational stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. It underpins everything else.
Totally. And this Construction Dive article, they highlighted a bunch of really influential shows in that area.
Let's hear them.
Okay, so first up,
Hit me.
ASCE plot points.
EAC.
Yeah, so this one comes from the American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE.
Okay, so we're talking serious engineering expertise here.
Oh, yeah. The real deal, yeah. But what's cool about this one is it's not just, hardcore technical details.
Mhm.
They actually connect, all the nuts and bolts of engineering to, the bigger picture stuff happening in the world.
Okay, so it's not just structural integrity, but it's how engineering plays into current events.
You got it.
Give me some examples. What kind of stuff have they been covering lately?
All right, so just recently, they've been looking at the aviation industry, all the challenges it's facing.
Oh, yeah, there's been a lot going on there.
From an engineering perspective, right, how to deal with all that. Then there's this whole thing about wildfires.
Oh, man, those have been devastating.
Yeah, huge impact on communities and obviously a ton of work rebuilding infrastructure afterwards.
Makes you think about the engineering challenges involved in that kind of reconstruction.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And get this, they've also been talking about AI, artificial intelligence.
Wow. AI in civil engineering, that's cutting edge.
Super cutting edge. So, if you're an engineer or you're working a lot with engineers on projects or whatever, this podcast seems like a really good way to just get a broader sense of what's shaping the whole field.
It's about seeing the bigger picture, those connections between the engineering principles and what's actually happening out in the world.
Exactly. So where can folks tune into this ASCE Plot Points podcast?
Easy. You can find it right on the official ASCE website.
Perfect. Easy access. Okay, so moving on from that, wider engineering view, let's zoom in on some more specific business stuff.
More the nitty-gritty.
Exactly. And in the article, they point to this podcast called The Art of Construction.
Okay, the art of construction. I love the sound of that.
Right. It sounds practical.
It does. What do they focus on?
So their whole deal is about giving contractors, the tools and knowledge to really build up their businesses.
So it's really tailored for owners and managers.
Definitely. And the topics are super action-oriented. They dive into leadership strategies.
Leadership, that's always a hot topic.
Huge, right. Then they talk about new tools and technologies for the job site.
Keeping up with the latest and greatest.
Oh, yeah. Got to stay ahead of the curve. And, construction financing. Always a fun one.
Yeah, can't forget about the money.
Absolutely. And then really important, maintaining a strong safety culture.
Of course, safety first.
Always.
It sounds like they cover all the bases, the fundamentals for any successful construction business.
I think so. Leadership, innovation, financial health, the well-being of your people.
Yeah, pretty comprehensive.
Where should people go if they want to check out the art of construction?
Easy peasy. You can subscribe on all the usual platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those.
Awesome. Okay, so now if we want to really zero in on that leadership aspect,
Mm-hmm.
there's this podcast called Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass.
Construction Genius,
Yeah.
a masterclass. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Right?
What's their special sauce? What makes them different?
So this one is made specifically for construction company owners and executives.
Okay, so top-level folks.
Yeah. And it's like they're getting these weekly doses of wisdom.
Wisdom, nice.
I know, right? And practical inspiration, too.
Practical, that's key, because you can have all the inspiration in the world,
Totally.
but if you don't know how to apply it.
Exactly. It's useless. So, and the format is cool. It's basically all interviews with construction leaders.
Oh, nice. So you're getting insights straight from the source.
You got it. People who've been there, done that.
I love those kinds of podcasts. You get to hear firsthand how people have overcome challenges and achieved success in their careers.
It's so valuable.
Yeah, what kind of leadership stuff do they usually talk about?
So they go into strategic planning, long-term vision for your
Oh,
company,
the picture stuff.
then business development techniques, how to grow and all that.
Essential for any business, really.
And then all sorts of core leadership skills,
Yeah.
like motivating your team, communicating clearly.
Just soft skills, right?
Exactly.
But they're not so soft. They're so important.
So important. The takeaway here is basically learning from other people's journeys so you can refine your own approach to leadership.
Learn from the best, right?
Exactly. So where can people find Construction Genius?
Same places as before. Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Perfect. Easy to find. Okay, so keeping with this leadership theme,
Okay.
we got to mention Construction Leaders Podcast.
Simple and straightforward. I like it.
Right to the point, right?
What makes this one stand out?
So the hosts, they're Nick Soto and Carly Trout.
All right, Nick and Carly.
They cover, it's a wide range of stuff, from starting your own construction company.
From scratch.
Yeah, step one,
Oh.
all the way to economic trends and mentorship.
So it's a good mix of practical advice
Uh-huh.
and broader industry insights.
Totally. And what's interesting about this one is that it's actually produced by the Construction Management Association of America.
CMA.
Yeah, CMAA. And the article specifically mentions that it's really helpful for people who are new to leadership in construction management.
So those who are moving into leadership roles or aspiring to.
Exactly. So you're getting guidance on, starting a business, understanding the big economic forces at play.
Right.
And then you're also getting, the wisdom of mentorship all in one place.
Yeah, that's a great resource, especially for someone at that stage in their career.
I think so. So where can they find the Construction Leaders Podcast?
So you can find it on the CMAA website and then also on all the, all the big podcast platforms.
Okay, cool. So wrapping up this first group,
Yeah.
the last one focused on, engineering and management
Mm-hmm.
is the Construction Management Podcast.
A construction management podcast. Very specific.
Super specific, right?
Can listeners expect to get out of this one?
So they really just dive right into the challenges and the opportunities in construction management.
So no beating around the bush.
No, none. And what's great is that it's designed for people at all different levels of experience.
From newbies to veterans.
You got it. So they talk about things like, project management techniques.
The nuts and bolts.
Yeah, the essentials for getting things done efficiently.
Right. On time and on budget, hopefully.
Exactly. Then they cover industry standards, making sure everyone's up to date.
Got to stay current.
Oh, for sure. And then they even have advice on career advancement within construction management.
So they really cover the whole spectrum of construction management.
I think so. So whether you're, totally new, trying to get a solid foundation, or you're, a veteran and you're just looking to sharpen your skills and, keep up with best practices.
Yeah.
This podcast seems like it has something for everyone.
So it's pretty comprehensive.
Where can people find the Construction Management Podcast?
So it's on their official website and then also Spotify and Apple Podcasts, the usual suspects.
Awesome. So, all right, that wraps up our look at this first group of podcasts, all focused on engineering and management.
Yeah. What are your thoughts so far?
Well, it's amazing to see how many different perspectives are out there.
Right.
We've got that broad engineering context from SEE plot points,
Yeah, the big picture stuff.
then like the practical business building focus of the art of construction.
Hands-on advice.
Totally. And then dedicated leadership insights from both construction genius and construction leaders.
Helping leaders at all levels.
And then that really hands-on, project management guidance from the Construction Management Podcast.
The nitty-gritty of getting things done.
Exactly. And it just shows, like, no matter what you're interested in, what you're trying to learn, there's probably a podcast out there for you.
Makes sense. Are you ready to move on to our next batch of podcasts?
I am. So in this next group, we're going to dive into podcasts that are all about, like, workforce development, how buildings actually operate,
Okay.
and then just, like, bigger industry trends.
Zooming out a bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Broadening our view a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So leading the way in this section is the Builder's Table.
The Builder's Table. Interesting name. What's that one all about?
So I'm thinking, based on the name,
Yeah.
they probably focus on, like, the people who are actually out there,
Building things with their hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? You're right. So this podcast comes from the National Center for Construction, Education, and Research.
Okay, that's NCCER.
Yeah, NCCER. And they've got this super important mission to, like, inspire and support the next generation of skilled tradespeople.
That's huge, especially with the skilled labor shortage we're facing.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge issue. And the host is Jennifer Wilkerson, who's the VP of Innovation and Advancement at NCCER.
So they're really thinking about the future of the workforce.
For sure. And the format is mainly interviews with AEC professionals.
AEC.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Architecture, engineering, and construction.
Got it. Thanks for clarifying.
No problem.
Yeah.
So they're getting perspectives from all across the industry,
It's so important to showcase the trades and the career paths available.
especially, like you said, with the need for skilled workers growing all the time.
For sure.
Where can people find the Builder's Table?
You can find it on Buzzsprout and Apple Podcasts.
Perfect. Okay, shifting gears a bit. The next one we've got is simply called Buildings Podcast.
Okay, Buildings Podcast, straight to the point.
I know, right?
What do they zero in on?
So they really focus on, like, the nuts and bolts of how buildings operate.
The day-to-day stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they cover things like facility management, making sure everything runs smoothly,
Right.
green building practices, sustainability, and all that.
That's super important these days.
Huge, yeah. Security, obviously a big concern.
Of course.
And then just, like, overall building performance.
Making sure buildings are functioning as they should.
You got it. And what's interesting is they keep their episodes pretty short, like anywhere from, 4 minutes to 30 minutes.
Oh, wow. That's a nice bite-sized format.
Yeah, perfect for busy people.
So if you're short on time, but you still want to stay up to date on those key areas.
Exactly. And I think it's smart because efficiency and sustainability, those are crucial in today's world.
Absolutely.
Where can people find the Buildings Podcast?
So they've got their own website, and then they're also on all the main podcast platforms.
Okay, cool. Next up, we have the Conexpo Canag podcast.
Conexpo Canag, that's a big one.
Huge.
Anyone in the construction equipment or aggregate industries knows that show.
Exactly. So it makes sense that they would have a podcast.
Totally. What's their angle?
So they really want to, like, expand people's knowledge of the construction world.
Broaden their horizons.
Yeah. And they do that through interviews with industry experts, which is awesome.
Always good to hear from the experts.
And then they have these shorter segments where they go into specific topics.
Nice mix of content.
They release new episodes twice a month, so pretty regular.
Keeps you coming back for more.
Exactly. And I mean, given how big Conexpo Canag is,
Yeah, it's a massive show.
they must have a really good grasp on what's trending in the industry.
I would think so.
Where can people find the Conexpo Canag podcast?
So it's on their website and then also on all the popular streaming services.
Great. Now, shifting to a more, specific region,
Okay, narrowing the focus.
we have the construction record.
Construction record. Is this one focused on a particular area?
Yeah, so this one's all about the Canadian construction industry.
Oh,
They have interviews with, industry leaders from Canada,
okay.
and they talk about, like, current events, policy changes, all that stuff.
So it's really tailored for anyone who's working or interested in the Canadian market.
Exactly. Especially if you're, keeping an eye on the North American construction scene.
It's good to get that regional perspective because things can be very different depending on where you are.
Absolutely. So where can people find the construction record?
Pretty simple. It's on all the major podcast platforms.
All right, great. And last but not least, in this group, we've got the Contech crew.
The Contact Crew. I remember you mentioning they used to be called Contact Trio.
Yeah, they rebranded.
And must have added a crew member.
Maybe, who knows?
So these are the Contact guys, right?
Totally, yeah. They're all about the latest and greatest in construction technology.
The bleeding edge.
And it's hosted by, like, this panel of industry experts.
Okay, so you're getting multiple perspectives.
Yeah, and they really know their stuff.
What kind of topics do they typically delve into?
Oh, man, all sorts. They'll showcase, like, brand new products.
Hot off the press?
Yeah, and then they'll also talk about, how to actually implement technology on construction sites.
The practical side of things.
Exactly. So if you want to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to using new tech to, make things more efficient, safer, just overall better,
Yeah.
this is the podcast for you.
Makes sense. Where can our listeners find the Contact Crew?
So they have their own website, and then they're also on all the usual streaming services.
Perfect. So looking back at this second group of podcasts, what are your big takeaways?
I mean, it's just amazing how much they cover.
Right.
We've got workforce development with the Builders Table.
The future of the industry.
Totally. Then the Buildings podcast, giving us all those practical insights into how buildings actually operate.
Keeping things running smoothly.
And then the ConExpo ConAg podcast, keeping us up to date on, like, the bigger trends.
The macro view.
Exactly. Then the Canadian perspective from the construction record.
The regional lens.
Yeah. And then, the deep dive into Contact with the Contact Crew.
The cutting edge.
And it just goes to show that to, like, really understand what's happening in the construction industry,
Yeah.
you got to look at it from all these different angles.
From the ground up, from the people to the technology and everything in between.
Exactly. So, as we wrap up this deep dive
Right?
into these awesome construction podcasts,
Yeah.
what's the big takeaway for our listeners?
What's the value proposition here?
I think it's clear that these podcasts, like, together, they offer a crazy amount of different perspectives.
Right.
And genuinely valuable insights for anyone who's, involved in the construction world.
Makes sense.
So whether you're, an engineer designing complex structures or you're a contractor managing all these, intricate projects, a project manager trying to keep everything on
The
track.
glue that holds it all together.
Yeah, a business owner trying to, grow and scale your business.
Yeah.
Or even if you're just fascinated by this whole industry.
Armchair enthusiasts.
Yeah, there are resources here to help you stay in the loop, learn new stuff quickly, and just, like, really broaden your understanding of how this whole world works.
It's about continuous learning, right?
Right, totally. And I think, we should really encourage our listeners to check out the podcasts that, speak to them the most.
Based on their interests and their professional goals.
Exactly. So if you're trying to, like, level up your leadership skills, keep up with the tech,
Understand the market.
support the next generation of, skilled tradespeople,
There's something here for everyone.
there's a podcast for you. And I think, a final thought to leave our listeners with
Okay.
in this, like, crazy dynamic industry, right?
Constantly changing.
Always evolving.
New
New materials, new methods, new technology.
That's only constant is change.
How can you, like, really use resources like these podcasts to not only, stay on top of what's happening now?
But also, like, be ready for what's next.
Exactly. How can you use them to give yourself an edge?
An edge.
And develop that mindset of, like, continuous learning and being able to adapt no matter what comes your way
That's the key.
in your career, in your business, whatever.
Yeah. Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.
See you then.